Welcome. Today's lesson, again, should be hopefully a fairly simple lesson. The biggest issue is students are going to drop their minus signs. They're not going to remember to distribute or FOIL when we get to two binomials. But like starting off, 2 times a -3 is a -6, and then there's the I that you're multiplying. They're just multiplied together. So these first few should be very, very simple. 25i, 25i. Now here, again, we got to distribute. We got to do the -3 times the 3, that's a -9. And then we got to do the -3 times the +4, that's going to be a -12. And then there's an I after the 12 because there's that I attached to it. Again, same thing here. We get a -12. That's the 3 times the -4. Then the 3 times the 2 is going to be a +6i. This one here, now again, this is where students are going to drop minus signs because I got a 5 times a 5, that's a 25. There's a negative here, that would be a -25. But then this I times this I is a -1. So we have a -1 contained in the two i's being multiplied together, plus this negative means the two negatives cancel, and we're left with a positive 25. Again, an I times an I is a -1. 2 times 4 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8, not 6, 8. And the -1 and the 8 multiply to give you -8. Again, when we distribute in, the 2 times the 5i will be a 10i, which we'll write second because we want the I portion second. The first, or the -2i times the 5i, well, 2 times 5 is 10. There's a negative in front of the 2, and then the two i's make a negative, making it positive. So we have a positive 10. That was the 5i times the -2i, and then the 5i times the 2 will be a plus 10i. Again, I'm going to do the I terms first because that i's will go away. A -3 times a 4 is a -12. The I times the I is a -1. -12 and -1 make positive 12 when you multiply them together. And then the 4i times the -3 will be a -12i. Again, we're squaring. So this negative times itself goes away. The 10 squared is 100. The I squared is a -1, which is another negative. So that one's a -100. There's actually 3 negatives. That negative in front of the 10 happens twice because of the exponent, and then the I squared is a third negative. Again, the I in front of the negative in front of the I is being squared, so that actually the little 2 squared takes care of that minus sign, but then the I squared is a -1, which means we have a -1. Again, we're going to distribute in. I'm going to do the 3i times the 6i first. 3 times 6 is 18. The I times the I is negative. This is positive, so it's going to be a -18. Then I have the 3i times the -5i, so that's going to be a minus 5 times 3 is 15. And then there's the I. Again, the 4 times the 5 will be the 20. That will be our real part. The 9 times the 4 is a plus 36i. Again, as we distribute in, I'm going to do the 8i times the I first. The 8 times the -1 is a -8. The I times the I is a -1. The -8 times the -1 will be a positive 8. And then the 8 times the -7 will be a negative 56i. Again, this will be a -8i. There's 4 times 2 is 8. There's the negative in front, and then the i's left. There's no 2 i's being squared. Now we're finally to the distributing. So this one we got to be careful because I got to multiply the 4 by the 5 and the 5i, and then I got to multiply the 3i by each of them as well. So the 4 times the 5 is 20. The 4 times the -5 will be a minus 20i. The 3i times the 5, and it's a -3i, will be a -15i. And then the -3 times the -5 will be a positive 15. But then there's that I times the I. So maybe I should do this so you can follow. the negative 3 times the negative 5 is positive 15, but then I'm going to end up multiplying by this I times the I, which is a negative 1, which is going to make that minus 15. So 20 minus this 15 is going to be 5. And then the negative 20 minus 15 more i's is going to be a negative 35i. Okay, so again, we're going to distribute in. The negative 3 times the 3 will be a minus 9. The negative 3 times the minus I is going to be a plus 3i. The I times the 3 will be a plus 3i. And the I times the negative I will be a negative I squared, right? So that's going to be another negative 1, and the negative and negative 1 become plus 1. So I have negative 9 plus 1 is going to be negative 8. Then the 3i plus the 3i will be plus 6i. Okay, so with this one, we are going to square it. I highly recommend you take the time to write a second one next to it with the 2 plus 4i inside, because what students mess up is they just square the 2 and the 4i and think they're done, but we have to FOIL. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4i is going to be a positive 8i. The 4i in the back will multiply by this front 2. That's another 8i. And then the 4i times the 4i will be a positive 16i squared, which is negative 1. So that means that's actually minus 16. So 4 minus 16 is going to be negative 12. And then the 8i plus the 8i is plus 16i. Okay, here, again, following our pattern, distributing 2 times, actually I want to do the 2 times the 2 first, that's 4. Then we'll do the 2 times the negative 4i, that's going to be negative 8i. Now I'm going to do the 4i times the 2, that's going to be a plus 8i. And then I'm going to multiply the 4i times the negative 4i. Positive times a negative will be minus. 4 times 4 is 16, but then we're going to multiply also by an I squared, which is negative 1. So then if you'll notice the two middle terms, I want you to notice something. These two middle terms cancel. I have a negative 8i and a positive 8i, and we got 4, not minus, but because it's times a negative, plus 16. Our final solution is 20. And now I want to stop for just a minute or pause for just a minute and make sure you notice something about these two complex numbers. They're conjugates. 2 plus 4i, 2 minus 4i. Do you remember the lesson on conjugates? Same two terms, the 2 and the 4i, but one's positive or plus in the middle, one's minus. Anytime you multiply two conjugates together, they always eliminate the i's or cancel out the middle terms, and you're actually left with one term. Just wanted to emphasize that, so because that's going to happen more and more often when we get into our quadratics. Okay, very quickly, we're almost done. Again, I'm going to multiply the 9 times the 2, that's 18. I'm going to multiply the 9 times the 4i, that's 36i. I'm going to multiply the negative 6i times the 2, that's minus 12i. And then I'm going to multiply the negative 6 times the negative 6i times the 4i, which is going to be a minus 24i squared, which is a negative 1. So that's going to be plus 24. 18 plus 24 is going to be 42. And then the 36 minus the 12 will be 24i, or a positive 24i. Again, all of the rest should be very similar to this. If you have any questions, bring them to class. I will help you, but nothing should be any harder than what we've done.